Anything else you got for how to love ourselves? Or is that really, that's the key?
Look, yeah. There's probably, I know there are books written on this, so we could go on and on about it. I
Yep.
think really being in integrity with ourselves is a huge thing. Like listening to our heart, listening to our truth, being authentic and being real, and honoring our experience
Mm-hmm.
and our wants and our hopes and our desires and what we've got to say and speak. We need to like make ourselves important in this as well.
Okay.
So
Yep.
loving ourselves means treating ourselves as if we're important. And often what we do is we discard what we want or what we think or what we
Mm.
feel, and that's treating ourselves like we're unimportant.
Yes, I come across people all the time when I say to them, "What do you want?" They don't know. And the reason they don't know is they're out of practice.
Yeah, yeah,
They have great, take them into an ice cream shop where there's 33 flavors and they're going to have a problem. And, we can be there for ages. And it's because they're so unused to becoming aware and going, well, today it's chocolate. Quite
yeah,
often, Mary, God bless her, I will say, she'll say, "Do you want a cup of tea or a hot chocolate or whatever?" And I'll say something she's unexpecting or not expecting, and she'll go, "You've changed your mind." Okay, yeah, that's because I feel different now than what I felt 10 minutes ago. And
yeah,
it kind of disturbs her equilibrium in terms of she wants to know how it is. Like he's a tea drinker or he's a coffee drinker or he's a or whatever. I
I'm
remember
sure you
years
keep her
ago.
alive with
Sorry.
that. I'm sure you keep her alive because the thing I know about you is you're a constant explorer of what's new and fantastic. So, but what I wanted to
Yeah.
say about the ice cream shop is you take a kid into that ice cream shop, they go, I'm having the licorice ice cream. They've hardly walked in
Yep.
the door, they already know because they're in
Yep.
touch with their feelings. And one of the
Yes.
sayings that I have
Yeah.
is all thoughts have equal value. All thoughts
Yeah.
have equal value. They're just
Yeah.
thoughts. And so, how do you pick between different thoughts? It's the emotional charge on the thought that gives it
Mm.
meaning,
Yeah.
And so, when it comes to making decisions, if you can't feel, you can't actually make a decision. And
Yeah.
so, that's the benefit
Got it.
of reconnecting and feeling is that it becomes our inner compass all the time that guides us on living the life that we're meant to live.
Just go
In
back
my
around that concept of all thoughts have equal value, but it's a feeling attached to the thought that helps you to work with that.
the emotions, when we listen to our emotions, they start to give us feedback. So fear has got a message in it. It's not just emotion. It's saying, take care, be careful.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
maybe you need some help. Maybe you need some support. Maybe you need some extra knowledge or feedback or something here, or somebody to. So the emotions actually have information inside them. Anger, good purpose of anger, is telling us to stand up, that there's some boundary
Uh-huh.
violations here. There's some place that we need to, reclaim our presence and self assertion.
Uh-huh.
So all the
Good
time
purpose of sadness? What's
we're
what's a good purpose of sadness?
well, the good purpose of sadness is that grieving allows us to move forward, right? So people
Uh-huh.
who experience loss and then sadness and close down on that loss get stuck. They get stuck
Mm.
in the past, and you see people that are stuck on 1960s music and they only
Yeah.
play 1960s music because some
Yeah.
trauma happened for them in 1960, like their girlfriend broke up with them or something, and they never got over it, right? And so they're stuck there because they
Yeah.
haven't grieved that. So it's
Yeah.
when we grieve, when we cry, release the sadness, that completes the past and it allows us then to move forward.
Cool. The good purpose of fear?
Fear is like it's a warning, isn't it? Like it's giving us feedback. We wouldn't be alive if we didn't have fear, right? So we
Mm.
learned that fear is for chickens and scaredy cats and weak, that it's weak to be scared. But actually,
Mm.
fear is keeping us alive, is the truth, you know. And
That's
fear
right.
is you go in a if you go to a used car yard with no fear, you're probably going to buy the wrong car, you know. And so fear is a good emotion. If you see a
Yeah.
sticker and the car says no fear, the first thing
Yeah.
everyone does is they get out of the way of that car because everybody knows that person is dangerous because they don't have fear. You know?
Yeah.
So
Cool.
fear is fear is essential for us. But the problem with us is what you said before is that we go into runaway awfulization of
Mm.
catastrophizing with the fear. We go to the movies
Yeah.
and we create this scary, traumatic movie about the future that doesn't exist, which is actually based on the past.
Yeah, we got all the raw material from the past, you know.
Yeah,
Oh, the last time this happened, blah blah blah. Yep.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right, two
So fear
more, two
is
more.
actually about the past. People think it's about the
Yeah,
future, but fear is about an unprocessed emotion from the past that's being
got
projected
it,
onto the future.
got
Yeah,
it. I think the secret message of fear also is don't do anything. Like just freeze, hold still. You know, get
yeah,
paralyzed because you're not going in either direction. You're not making decisions. It's kind of like the
yeah,
worst thing could be this way or that way. So just hang out here. I
yeah.
think fear walks up to people who are afraid of speaking in public and whispers in their ear, "It's safer back in the crowd here with me." I've got two more questions about what is a good purpose of.
Yeah.
One is shame and the other is guilt. I
Okay,
mention them both at the same time because they kind of, they're a
they're
casserole.
buddies.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So first of all, the distinction between shame and guilt. Guilt is I did something bad or wrong, right?
Hmm.
So that's usually something that an action we've taken, and it tends to be a more private kind of a thing. I did something, stole some money or something. We feel guilt about that, or we hurt someone.
Yeah.
Shame is I am bad or wrong.
Uh-huh.
Actually, a spiritual wound because the I am is my God essence. And so it's an invalidation of that essence. So instead
Hmm.
of I did something wrong, which is guilt, is I am something wrong. And so you hear some parents saying that to their kids, like, you are a naughty boy, not you did
Yeah.
a naughty thing, you know?
Mm.
And so that's the first thing. Um, the good purpose of both of them really is they enable us to function in a culture, don't they? Like I was saying to you yesterday,
Yeah.
shame is like our social conscience. So shame is
Yeah.
giving us feedback about what's appropriate and what's not, and guilt more or less is the same. The problem with both of them is that we've been trained that if you feel guilty or shameful, that you need to be punished. So we're back there again.
So we're back in the punishment mode.
Yeah,
Yep.
and punishment just shuts people down, right?
Yeah.
Whereas,
Yeah.
and interestingly, the Buddhists, the only emotion the Buddhists kind of acknowledge is remorse. And so I
Yeah.
am sorry is a get out of jail card for shame and guilt,
Yeah.
expressing remorse, you know? And
Yeah.
so we get stuck there though because of the punishment thing.
So instead of going to punishment, if we went to remorse, then we would realize where we went wrong. We could learn from that. We could commit to changing and we could move on.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and
Got
they
it.
have good purpose, but we get stuck. And the other thing about shame is it tends to be a public situation, like being exposed in class as a bad reader, you know? It's got
Yeah.
this humiliation exposure aspect, whereas guilt's a more private thing. So Catholics go to confession for guilt, you know.
Yeah.
And so we heal shame in a non-shaming group where there's not judgment, there's validation and acknowledgement
Acceptance.
and yeah, and understanding really that we're all doing the best that we can all the time with the knowledge and experiences we've got available to us in this moment.
Hmm. Yeah, I think one of the things we tend to do is we gain more knowledge and then look backwards and say, well, what that decision I made 10 years ago, I shouldn't have,
Yeah,
I didn't have that knowledge back then, nor
yeah.
did I have the experience, the ability, the capacity, the understanding, any of that, but I should
Huh?
have done different based
Yeah,
on today's knowledge.
yeah. So wisdom is an easy thing in hindsight. Can we say that? And the
Yeah.
truth is that even, that we're all the time doing the best that we can in each moment, even when we're in the middle of the biggest mistake of our life, we're actually thinking that if I do this, I'll be happier.
Uh-huh.
Doesn't
Yeah.
al- doesn't always turn
Yeah.
out that way. But then how do we master that? How do we turn that into a personal growth journey? Well, what's the lesson? How have we grown from this? So how do we turn the shame and the guilt and the times where we make mistakes into good things, which is, how do we use it for our personal growth? And the
Yeah.
answer is to ask, what's the good purpose of this? You know,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
so when we lose our temper, well, we've lost our temper. So how can we judge other people that lose their temper? So we get
Hmm.
compassion for everybody that loses their temper. Um,
Yeah.
and we take, maybe we go and do some anger management class or do some personal growth on our anger and work out what's the background stresses and do the things that we're talking about here. Is how can we use this as grist for growth? How
Yeah.
can we turn this into some
Yeah.
way for our soul to grow? We become more compassionate, more loving, more kind and gentle to ourselves even.
Beautiful. I say to my clients, we have to walk around looking at the people and the events in our life saying, what have you come to teach me? Because if we're not saying that, well, we've got to open up to the possibility that there could be something in it for us.
Yeah. Look, I believe that our soul, which is bigger than this life, it was here before we were born and after we die, has incarnated in this life for evolution. And so
Yeah.
we go through experiences, the people in our life are all present in our life to serve us in some way. And if
Mm.
we go, this shouldn't be happening, or why me, we just chuck the lesson out the window.
That's
We
right.
chuck because we make it wrong. It
It's,
shouldn't be happening, but it is
yeah.
happening. And by the way, God thinks it's supposed to be happening because it's happening, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, much more helpful question is, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? Where's the opportunity in this?
Yeah.
To
What is the message? What do I need to learn? Yeah.
yeah,
Because it's happening. whether we like it or not, it's happening.
yeah. And so, the choice is always to resist what's happening and invalidate it, and then we suffer more, or to open up to it and accept this is happening or this has happened and this is where I am. And how can I breathe into this, what's happening inside as a result of that, and use that to open up my heart and to grow?
Hmm. Cool. You just said, how do I breathe into this? And I know that breath work is your big thing. It's kind of like one of your
Mm,
most powerful weapons in the work that you do.
yeah.
Um, can you just expand, can you give us the 3-minute version of why we should look at
Uh,
breath work?
So I've been working full time with breathwork since 1992, so 30 years now,
Uh-huh.
and the breath has become my teacher. It's the breath is the catalyst for transformation, and the way that it works is really simple. That when we're stressed, we hold our breath. We get uptight,
Mm.
we contract in our body, and what that does is it locks up the flow. So nothing can change while we're all uptight. And so the beauty of the breath is that it brings us in the present moment, it energizes our body, and it creates flow, creates movement. And so when I'm training breathwork practitioners, I tell them the breath is the catalyst for the transformation. The breath
Mm.
does all the work. And so it really, it's free, it's immediately available, and you can just check your breath. It's like, where is my breathing now? Am I holding my breath? And a lot of people go through a lot of the day holding their breath. That's
I'm
symptomatic.
doing it now, mate. I'm doing it now. As you're talking, I'm going.
And so the thing is that we lock up and we get stuck and we get blocked, and then the suffering starts to build inside of us. And so when we can breathe consciously and we learn how to flow the breath, we are actually, everything comes online. The natural process of healing happens. And that was what I learned way back. I've never told you this, but I told Susan last week, your workshops used to be 3.5 days, basically of meditating every hour. Right? So you did a
Yeah.
piece and meditate, did a piece and meditate. On
Yeah.
the second or third day, I would start to be able to breathe through my nose. I've always been a
Yeah.
mouth breather. Mouth breathing is to do with gasping or post traumatic stress, sympathetic nervous
Mm.
system activation in fight or flight. And it was only after 2 or 3 days of meditating that I would relax enough into my body and the parasympathetic nervous system come back online where I could actually breathe through my nose. And
Yeah.
so the breath is like, the breath is so key for accessing this. And the thing with conscious breathing is we can switch those autonomic nervous systems from fight or flight to relax and digest, the green light, by changing the way that we breathe. So we breathe consciously in a way that induces a sense of flow.